Hello, and welcome to Sunshine for Your Life. My father was a brilliant musician, and he was very happy that his children, myself included, showed an interest in music at a very early age. He was very willing to let us play any instrument we wanted to play. He made sure we had lessons on any instrument we wanted to take lessons on, and we were all taking lessons, and we were all playing in bands and doing music. Now, I wanted to learn to play the sousaphone, which was his main instrument. He played them all, but sousaphone was his main one, and he would study at the New England Conservatory of Music. And the sousaphone, sometimes called the tuba, is huge. It is the instrument that is the largest instrument if you see bands marching, or if you watch football shows in between the quarters of the football game. It'll be the largest instrument there with a huge bell over the head. Now, I wanted to play it, but he wouldn't teach it to me. And the reason he wouldn't teach it to me, and I asked him, I says, why won't you teach me the sousaphone? I'd like to learn how to play it. He said, Pat, I don't want to teach you the sousaphone because it's bigger than you are, and you don't have the strength to handle it. And of course, he was absolutely right about that. But that makes me think, when God gives you something to do, it's always bigger than you are. It's always more than you can manage alone. You never can do it alone because it's just so huge. And this is the way that God helps us to grow. You wouldn't grow if God gave you something to do that was so simple. You could say, oh, that's easy, I'll just do it. You grow because it becomes difficult and there's a lot to it, and God works within you to strengthen you and help you to grow and learn how to do what it is you need to do. Things start small and then they build up. A child may become a famous athlete someday, but of course it's still going to have to start with his first step as a child. God always gives the increase, and he works within you. T.D. Jakes is one of my favorite Christian writers, and he says this about growth. This is a quote from him in one of his books. God gives you an acorn. You invest it, and it will become a tree. Stop praying for trees while acorns are lying all over the ground. God answered your prayer for the tree when he sent you the acorn. So you see, you grow, and it starts small, and it increases and increases. So what happens to make the acorn a tree? What must occur for your own dreams to be fulfilled? When God gives you something, you nurture it. You value it. You give it the very best care. You put it first in your life, and you become a good steward of what God has given you. And in a way, isn't that the way you should raise children? Nurture them, put them first, take care of them. They're important to you. Well, God does the rest. You do what you're supposed to do and be a good steward, and God does the rest. In Matthew 25, the Bible talks about talents given to 3 men. A talent is a weight of coins. It is basically money. One man had 5 talents, and one man had 2 talents, and a third man had 1 talent. Why is this? They didn't all get the same thing. Well, God gives us different abilities and different things that we can do and different strengths so that we're not all the same. He doesn't want us all the same. And if you have 2 talents instead of 5, you're just as important as the one who has 5. God gives us different abilities and gifts. Now, the man with the 5 talents and the man with the 2 talents were all very equally rewarded because they developed what they had. It wasn't the same thing, but it's what they had. The man with the 1 talent buried it out of fear. And if he had worked with it and gained 1 more talent, or made an increase somehow, he would have gotten the same reward as the other man did. But he didn't. He just buried it out of fear. Now, I'm going to read a verse. This is not going to be on the screen. It's going to be Matthew 25, verses 22 and 23. And it explains how God was happy with the men who increased their talents. And it says this: he also who had received 2 talents came and said, Lord, you delivered to me 2 talents. talents. Look, I have gained 2 more talents beside them. And verse 23, it says, also not on the screen, his Lord said to him, well done, good and faithful servant. You have been faithful over a few things. I will make you ruler over many things. Enter into the joy of your Lord. Now, God was very happy with them because they had increased what they had. What they increased it to was different than each other because they started out with something that was different from each other. But that's all right. They all had an increase. Now, the man who hid his talent lost it. It was given to the man who had 10. And he was called a wicked and lazy servant by his Lord. You do not have to allow your fear to stop you from doing God's work. It might help you to look at your real circumstances. If you look at your real circumstances, just consider this. God has given you new life. He surrounds you. He goes before you and behind you. He knows everything about you. He wants to accomplish things through you. He knows your circumstances, and he has planned your future. It would be like reading Psalm 139 all over again, but this is the truth of the matter. This is what your real circumstances are. Your life is going to be changed as you follow God, and so what God says, what does God say about your future? Now, I'm going to read 3 verses, and we're going to close with these 3 verses, and I'm going to read them one right after the other. The first one is Matthew 25:23. I will have part of it on the screen, and then I'll read the whole thing, because it's a little too long to put all on the screen. So Matthew 25:23 says this, well done, good and faithful servant, I will make you ruler over many things. Now, I'm going to read it again, but I'm going to read the whole thing, which is not on the screen. Well done, good and faithful servant. You have been faithful over a few things. I will make you ruler over many things. Enter into the joy of your Lord. This is one that I read earlier, and it's an important one because God is going to be rewarding those who are faithful, and he does that with joy. The second verse is Jeremiah 29:11, and it says this, I know the thoughts that I think toward you, says the Lord, thoughts of peace and not of evil, to give you a future and a hope. So I'm going to read that again. I know the thoughts that I think toward you, says the Lord, thoughts of peace and not of evil, to give you a future and a hope. You know, we have a very great future with God because God has good thoughts towards us, and he thinks about us all the time. So, and I'm going to close it with Psalm 23:6, and it says this. This is the 3rd verse. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Let me read that again. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. What great reward is that, to be with God forever. No pain, no illness, nothing wrong, only joy in serving God. So I'm going to close it here. We'll be doing something else next time. Please join me then.